Commander Jake Morrison was sleeping in his quarters when something woke him up. The room was dark and cold, and the air felt different somehow. He opened his eyes slowly, and his heart nearly stopped. There was a woman standing at the foot of his bed. She was tall and thin, with silver hair that seemed to glow in the darkness. Her eyes were bright like stars, and her skin was pale as moonlight. She wore armor made of something that looked like crystal and light combined. Jake reached for his weapon on the nightstand, but she raised one hand. The gesture was not threatening, but it made him pause. Behind her in the shadows, something moved. It was large and covered in dark scales. Two amber eyes watched him with an intelligence that made his skin prickle. "I need to speak with you." Her voice was soft like wind through leaves. Jake sat up slowly, keeping his eyes on the strange woman and the creature behind her. "Who are you? And how did you get in here?" He tried to keep his voice steady. The security systems on the Valiant Dawn were supposed to be impossible to breach. She stepped forward into the thin light from the window. "My name is Elindra, and I am from the world of Luminara. I came here because your people are in grave danger." The creature behind her moved closer, and Jake could see it was a dragon. Not the huge monsters from old Earth stories, but something smaller and more graceful. Its scales shimmered like oil on water, changing colors in the dim light. "This is Ember, and she is my bonded companion." Elindra gestured to the dragon. "We share thoughts and memories, and she can see things that I cannot." Jake stood up slowly, still watching them both. "Why should I believe you, and why come to me like this in the middle of the night? Because if I had come through official channels, your commanders would have turned me away," Elindra said with sadness in her voice. "My people do not trust humans, and they forbid any contact with your kind. So why are you here then? Because I have seen something terrible, and I cannot stay silent." The dragon Ember made a low sound like distant thunder. "Through her eyes, I have witnessed the plans of the Krell Empire. You know of them." I assume Jake felt cold fear run through him. Everyone in the human fleet knew about the Krell. They were an insectoid race that had been conquering worlds for centuries. Humanity had been at war with them for 5 years now. Thousands of human colonies had fallen to their endless swarms. What about the Krell? The Krell are building a weapon unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Elindra moved closer, and her eyes were filled with urgency. "It is a device that can ignite stars and turn them into supernovas. They plan to use it on human worlds to study how your species reacts to extinction." Jake felt sick. A weapon that could destroy suns would make entire solar systems uninhabitable. How do you know this Ember has the ability to link minds across vast distances? She touched the consciousness of a Krell war leader while he was inspecting the weapon. We saw it through his memories, a massive organic structure grown from living tissue. It feeds on stellar matter and converts it into directed energy. Jake ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what he was hearing. "Why tell me, and not someone higher up in command?" "Because you have a reputation." Commander Morrison Elindra said, simply, "The elves have been watching humanity for decades. We know which humans can be trusted and which cannot. You lost your family to a Krell attack 3 years ago. Since then, you have dedicated your life to stopping them. But you also show mercy when others would show only violence. There was a rescue mission last year where you saved Krell prisoners from a damaged ship." Jake remembered that mission. His crew had not understood why he would save the enemy. But Jake could not leave sentient beings to die in space no matter who they were. "You have been watching us that closely. We watch everyone, Commander. The galaxy is old, and my people have seen empires rise and fall like waves on a shore. Humanity is young and reckless, but you have something we have lost. What is that hope and the refusal to surrender? Every other species reaches a point where they accept their limitations. Humans never do. You always push forward, always find a new solution. That is why the Krell fear you." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The Valiant Dawn was orbiting a small moon while the crew resupplied. Out there somewhere the Krell were building their terrible weapon. "Why should I trust you, and how do I know this is not some kind of trap you do not know?" Alindra said honestly. "But consider this, Commander. If I wanted to harm you, I could have done so while you slept. If I wanted to sabotage your ship, Ember could have disabled your engines from the outside. We came here because time is running out. Krell test subjects are already being gathered from human colonies. They will activate the weapon within 3 months." Jake turned back to face her. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to help me stop them, and in return I will give you access to Elven intelligence networks. My people have been observing the Krell for centuries. We know their tactics, their weaknesses, their fleet positions. Together we might be able to find this weapon and destroy it before they can use it. And what happens when your people find out you helped us?" Alindra smiled, but it was a sad expression. "Then I will be exiled from my home world forever. But some things are worth more than personal safety." The dragon Ember moved forward until she was standing beside Alindra. The creature looked at Jake with those knowing amber eyes. He felt something brush against his mind. It was not words exactly, but impressions and emotions, truth and urgency and a deep sorrow for the countless lives that would be lost. Jake made his decision. He had spent 3 years fighting the Krell. He had seen what they did to human worlds. If there was even a chance that this strange elf woman and her dragon were telling the truth, then he had to take it. "All right, I will help you. But we do this carefully. My tactical officer, Maya Chen, is trustworthy. We will need her if we are going to access secure intelligence." Alindra nodded. "Thank you, Commander Morrison. You are taking a great risk by trusting me." "We are all taking risks," Jake said. "But if we can stop this weapon, then it will be worth it." The dragon Ember made a sound that might have been approval. Alindra placed her hand over her heart in what must have been an elven gesture of respect. "Meet me at the neutral trading station in the Deneb sector in 2 days. Come alone. Except for your officer Maya Chen, I will bring proof of what I have told you." Then she and Ember simply vanished. One moment they were standing in his quarters, and the next, they were gone. Not even a shimmer in the air to show they had been there. Jake stood in the darkness, wondering if he had just made the best decision of his life or the worst. Outside his window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Somewhere out there, the Krell were preparing to extinguish those stars forever. And somehow Jake and a mysterious elf princess and her dragon were going to stop them. 2 days later, Jake Morrison and Lieutenant Maya Chen stood on the docking platform of Deneb Station. The station floated in neutral space between human and alien territories. It was a place where traders and smugglers and information brokers met. Security here was minimal, and that made it perfect for secret meetings. Maya was shorter than Jake, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had been suspicious when Jake told her about Alindra, but Maya had also lost family to the Krell, and she was willing to try anything to get revenge. "Commander, are you sure about this?" Maya kept her hand near her sidearm. "We could be walking into a trap." Jake scanned the crowded marketplace ahead of them. Dozens of different species moved through the space. Some were humanoid and others were completely alien. I know it sounds crazy, but something about her felt genuine. Besides, if the Krell really are building a star weapon, we need to know. A flash of silver caught his eye. Alindra emerged from the crowd, moving with a grace that made her stand out. Ember walked beside her, and people moved away from the dragon instinctively. The creature was larger today than she had been in his quarters. Her scales caught the light and reflected it in rainbow patterns. Commander Morrison, Alindra stopped a few feet away. "Thank you for coming." Jake gestured to Maya. "This is Lieutenant Maya Chen, my tactical officer. I trust her with my life." Alindra studied Maya for a moment, then nodded. "Your sister was named Lisa, and she died in the Krell attack on Newton Colony 2 years ago. You have been requesting frontline combat assignments ever since Maya stiffened. How do you know that? We have been watching, as I said. But I do not tell you this to frighten you. I tell you, so you understand that I know your pain. My own brother died fighting the Krell a decade ago. They do not only destroy humans. The two women looked at each other, and something passed between them. A shared understanding of loss. You said you had proof Jake wanted to move this along before station security noticed them. Come with me. Alindra led them to a quiet corner of the station, where the lights were dimmer. Ember settled onto the floor, and her eyes began to glow. What you are about to see will be difficult. The dragon must share her memories directly with your minds. It can be overwhelming for those not used to it. What do we need to do? Maya asked. Touch her scales and open your thoughts. Do not resist what you see. Jake and Maya both knelt beside the dragon. Up close, Ember was even more impressive. Her scales were warm like heated metal. Jake placed his hand on her side, and immediately the world disappeared. He was flying through space, but not in a ship. He was seeing through Ember eyes, seeing with dragon senses. Time moved strangely here. Past and present and possible futures all layered together. Then, he was looking down at a massive structure. It was organic and mechanical at the same time. Tubes of living flesh wrapped around metal frameworks. At its center was a sphere that pulsed with contained energy. Krell workers swarmed over it like insects on a corpse. The vision shifted, and he was inside a Krell mind. The thoughts were alien and hard to understand, but the emotions were clear. Pride and hunger and cold calculation. The Krell war leader was thinking about test subjects, human colonies that would be used to measure the weapon effectiveness. Newton Colony was already destroyed. Next would be Terra Nova, then New Earth, then a dozen others. The Krell wanted to see how humans reacted when their sons died. Would they evacuate in time? Would they fight? Would they despair? All of it was just data to them. The vision shifted again, and Jake saw human prisoners. They were being kept in cages aboard Krell ships. Some were being experimented on, others were simply being studied. The Krell were fascinated by human determination. They could not understand why humans kept fighting, even when defeat seemed certain. The vision ended abruptly. Jake found himself back on the station floor, breathing hard. Beside him, Maya was crying silently. Ember had pulled away, and her eyes had returned to their normal amber color. That was real, Maya whispered. All of it? Yes. Alindra helped them both stand. The weapon is called the Star Eater, and it is nearly complete. The Krell will test it within 6 weeks. Jake forced himself to focus. Where is it being built? In the Scorius Nebula. A region of space so dense with radiation that most sensors cannot penetrate it. The Krell chose it, specifically because it is hard to find and harder to reach. Can we destroy it? That is the question I cannot answer alone. Alindra admitted, my people have never faced anything like this, but humans are known for finding solutions that others think impossible. Maya wiped her eyes and her expression hardened. We need to tell command. They can send a fleet. No, Alindra said firmly. Your commanders will not believe you. They will think this is an elven trick, and even if they did believe, they would spend weeks arguing and planning. By then it will be too late. Then what do you suggest? Jake asked. We form a small team, humans and elves working together in secret. We gather more intelligence and find the weapon exact location. Then we strike before the Krell expect it. You make it sound simple, Maya said, but we are talking about infiltrating the most dangerous region of space, guarded by Krell war fleets. With a weapon we do not understand, I did not say it would be simple. Alindra smiled slightly. I said it was possible. There is a difference. What can you offer us? Jake needed to know what resources they had. My people have ships that can navigate the nebula using stellar harmonics. We can sense gravitational currents that your sensors cannot detect. We also have access to intelligence networks across the galaxy. And you have Ember Maya looked at the dragon with new respect. Can all dragons share memories like that? Only the bonded ones. Alindra reached out and stroked Ember's snout. Dragons choose their companions and the bond lasts for life. Ember chose me when I was a child. Together we are more than either of us could be alone. Can humans bond with dragons? Maya asked. The question hung in the air. Alindra and Ember exchanged a look. It has never been tried before. My people believe only elves have the mental discipline for it, but then we also believed humans were too violent and short-lived to be worth knowing. Perhaps we were wrong about many things. I have 3 young dragons aboard my ship. They are not yet bonded, and they are curious about humans. If you are willing to try it, might give us an advantage. Jake thought about what he had felt when Ember shared her memories. The connection had been powerful and terrifying, but it had also felt right somehow, like a door opening in his mind that he had not known existed. I will try it, Maya said immediately. If it means stopping the Krell, I will try anything. Jake nodded agreement. What do we need to do? First, we need a ship, Alindra said. Something fast and well-armed. The Valiant Dawn is a battlecruiser, too large and too easily tracked. We need something that can slip through enemy space unnoticed. Maya thought for a moment. I know someone who owes me a favor. A smuggler named Katie Rodriguez. She has a ship called the Silver Hawk, fast engines, stealth coding, and she asks no questions if the price is right. Perfect. Alindra looked relieved. Gather your crew. We leave in 3 days. Meet me at these coordinates. She handed Jake a data chip. In the meantime, I will bring my elven warriors. There are 5 who have agreed to join this mission. They are all volunteers who believe as I do that some rules must be broken. Jake pocketed the chip. What happens if we fail? Then the Krell win and billions die. Alindra said simply. But if we succeed, we might just save the galaxy. No pressure then, Maya said with dark humor. Indeed, Alindra smiled. Welcome to the war, Lieutenant Chen. I think you and I will work well together. Ember made a sound like purring. The dragon seemed pleased with how the meeting had gone. Jake looked at the strange group they were forming. An exiled elf princess and her telepathic dragon, a human commander haunted by loss, a tactical officer seeking revenge, and somewhere out there a smuggler who would fly them into hell if the price was right. It was not much of an army, but it was a start. As they parted ways, Jake felt something he had not felt in years. Hope mixed with fear, but hope nonetheless. They had 6 weeks to find and destroy a weapon that could end worlds. 6 weeks to prove that humans and elves could work together. 6 weeks to change everything. The stars above them continued their ancient dance, unaware that their very existence hung in the balance. The Silver Hawk was not what Jake expected. It was smaller than a military vessel, but its hull was covered in some kind of reflective coating. Katie Rodriguez stood at the boarding ramp with her arms crossed. She was tall with bronze skin and hair streaked with gray despite being only in her 30s. So Maya tells me, you need to fly into the most dangerous region of space. Katie looked Jake up and down, and you want to do it without telling command. Basically, yes. Jake extended his hand. Thank you for agreeing to help. Katie shook it firmly. Maya saved my life during the Battle of Rigel. I owe her plus. You are paying me enough to retire if we survive this. Fair enough, the elven ships arrived an hour later. They were unlike anything Jake had seen before. Living vessels grown from crystal and organic matter. They seemed to breathe as they moved through space. Alindra brought 5 warriors with her. They were all tall and graceful, but Jake could see the hardness in their eyes. These were fighters, not diplomats. The youngest was a woman named Luna who carried a bow that crackled with energy. She smiled at Jake, and it was not entirely friendly. So these are the humans who think they can stop the Krell. Her voice had doubt in it. These are the humans who will stop the Krell. Maya corrected her. Luna laughed. I like this one. She has fire. The two groups met in the Silverhawk cargo bay. Tension filled the air. Humans and elves had never worked together before. Centuries of mutual distrust did not disappear easily. Elindra stepped forward with Ember beside her. We are all here for the same reason the Krell must be stopped. I do not care if you like each other. I only care that you fight together. One of the elven warriors spoke up. He was older with silver hair and scars on his face. My name is Kale, and I have fought the Krell for 40 years. I have seen them destroy worlds and enslave populations. If working with humans gives us a chance to hurt them, then I will do it gladly. A human marine named Sophie Walsh nodded. I lost my parents and my little brother to the Krell. If these elves can help us kill more of those bugs, then I am in. Good Elindra looked relieved. Now we come to the difficult part, the dragon bonding. 3 young dragons entered the bay. They were smaller than Ember, but still impressive. One had scales like polished copper. Another was deep blue like ocean water. The third was silver, white like starlight. They will choose if they wish to bond, Elindra explained. You cannot force it. The connection must be willing on both sides. Sophie stepped forward first. She walked up to the copper dragon slowly. The creature watched her with intelligent eyes. Sophie reached out her hand. The dragon sniffed it, then pressed its head against her palm. The moment they touched, Sophie gasped. Her eyes went wide and she staggered. The dragon wrapped around her to keep her from falling. Their minds were connecting. Jake could see it happening. Sophie began to glow faintly with the same copper light as the dragon scales. When it ended, Sophie was breathing hard but smiling. Her name is Stormwing, and she is magnificent. 2 more humans tried. One succeeded in bonding with the blue dragon. The other was rejected, and the silver dragon turned away. Not everyone can bond, Elindra said gently to the disappointed marine. It requires a certain type of mind. Do not take it as failure. They spent the next day training. Humans learning to fight alongside elves. Dragon riders learning to fly. Katie pushed the Silverhawk through maneuvers that made everyone sick except the elves. Then the emergency beacon started screaming, a distress call from a human outpost. Krell attack in progress. It was a trap. They all knew it, but Jake could not ignore people dying. We go in fast and we get out faster. He ordered elves take the left flank, humans take the right, dragons provide air support. The battle was chaos. The outpost was a small mining colony on an asteroid. 3 Krell cruisers were tearing it apart. The Silverhawk and the elven ships dropped out of hyperspace with weapons. Hot human kinetic cannons fired alongside elven energy beams. The combination was devastating. Krell shields that could deflect one type of weapon failed against both Sophie and Stormwing, dove through space like a meteor. The dragon breathed plasma fire that melted through Krell armor. 2 more dragon riders followed her lead. The sky filled with fire. On the ground, elven warriors and human marines fought together. Luna moved like wind, using her energy bow to strike from impossible angles. Maya coordinated tactics linking human and elven communication systems. Kale fought with twin blades that hummed with power. He moved through Krell soldiers like they were paper. Sophie landed and Stormwing grew larger. The dragon had been the size of a horse, but now she expanded to fill the space. Her wings spread wide and her roar shook the ground. The Krell had never seen dragons before. The creatures terrified them. Jake fought beside Elindra as they pushed toward the colony command center. She moved with grace, turning gravity into a weapon. Krell soldiers floated helplessly while human marines shot them down. You fight well for someone who is not a warrior, Jake said between bursts of gunfire. I was trained from childhood. All elven nobility must know combat. You fight well for someone so young. I am 38, Jake said. Not young. She laughed. "I am 312 years old, Commander. You are practically a baby." They reached the command center and found it breached. Krell had taken hostages. 20 human miners huddled in a corner while insectoid soldiers stood guard. This required precision. Jake signaled Maya, who was coordinating from the Silver. Hawk Elven warriors entered from above, using their ability to manipulate gravity. They dropped silently behind the Krell guards. At the same moment, human marines breached from below. The fight was over in seconds. The hostages were saved. But as they evacuated the colony, Jake noticed something wrong. The Krell had not fought as hard as they should have. They had retreated too easily. This was not just an attack, it was reconnaissance. They were testing us. Elindra realized it at the same moment. They wanted to see how we fight together, back on the Silver Hawk. Everyone was celebrating. They had won a victory, saved lives. But Jake felt cold dread in his stomach. The Krell know about us now. He told Elindra privately, they know humans and elves are working together. Yes, she looked worried, which means they will adapt. The Krell are many things, but they are not stupid. They will change their tactics, and they might move up their timeline for the weapon. Katie joined them. Her face was grim. "I have been monitoring Krell communications. They are pulling ships from everywhere, massing them near the Scorius Nebula." "How many ships?" Jake asked. "At least 200 warships, maybe more." Katie showed them the data. They are building a defensive perimeter around something that has to be the weapon. Maya said, "They are protecting it, which means we are running out of time." Elindra looked at Ember. "How long do we have?" Ember made a sound like distant thunder. Through their bond, Elindra could sense what the dragon felt. She says 4 weeks, maybe less. The Krell are accelerating construction, then we need more help. Jake made a decision. We cannot take on 200 Krell. Ships with what we have. "I know someone," Kale spoke up. "Prince Thalon commands the Luminaran home fleet. He is Elindra brother, and he does not agree with her choice to help humans. But he is also honorable. If we can convince him the threat is real, he might join us." "Your brother will arrest me," Elindra said. "He swore to bring me home. Let him try." Jake smiled. "We need ships, and we need warriors. If that means negotiating with an angry prince, then that is what we do. Besides, how bad can he be?" Elindra and Ember both made sounds of distress. Prince Thalon arrived 3 days later with 20 warships. Each ship was massive and beautiful and clearly designed for war. The prince himself was tall even for an elf. His armor was gold and white, and his eyes were cold with fury. "Elindra, you have betrayed our people." He did not bother with, "Greetings. You have shared our secrets with outsiders. You have bonded humans with sacred dragons. The High Council demands your return." Jake stepped forward. "Prince Thalon, we mean no disrespect, but your sister is trying to save billions of lives. The Krell have a weapon that will destroy entire star systems." Thalon turned his cold gaze on Jake. "And why should I believe you, human? What proof do you have?" Ember stepped between them. The dragon was much smaller than the prince, but her presence was commanding. She projected memories directly into Thalon's mind. Jake could see the prince stiffen as the visions hit him. The Star Eater, the Krell plans, the test subjects. When it ended, Thalon looked shaken. "This is real." His voice was quieter now. "The weapon exists." "It does." Elindra moved to stand beside her brother. "And if we do nothing, the Krell will use it, not just on humans, but eventually on us, on everyone." Thalon was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Jake. "You truly believe you can stop this?" "We have to try." Jake said simply, "What other choice is there?" The prince studied the mixed group of humans and elves. He saw Sophie and Stormwing working together. He saw Maya and Luna planning tactics. He saw warriors from 2 species who should have been enemies standing side by side. "The High Council will never forgive this," Thalon finally said, then looked at his sister, "And neither will I." But he smiled slightly. "However, I am not here because of the Council. I am here because you are my sister, and because someone needs to keep you out of trouble. Welcome to the war, Prince." Thalon Jake extended his hand. The elf looked at it for a moment, then he shook it. Firmly. "Let us kill some Krell." The combined fleet moved through space like a school of predators. 20 elven warships and a dozen human vessels that Katie had called in favors to acquire. It was not nearly enough to face 200 Krell cruisers, but Jake hoped they would not have to fight them all. The Scorius Nebula loomed ahead like a wall of crimson fog. Radiation poured from it in waves that made sensors scream warnings. No ship should be able to navigate through that. Katie stared at the readouts in disbelief. The interference is too strong. But the elven ships began to change. Their crystalline hulls started to resonate with a low-frequency hum. "We navigate by feeling the currents of space itself," Prince Thylon explained over the comm. "Follow our lead and stay close." Human ships cannot survive long in the nebula radiation. Jake watched as the elven vessels slipped into the red fog. They moved with purpose, following paths that his sensors could not detect. The Silver Hawk followed with the other human ships behind. Inside the nebula, everything changed. Colors shifted and swirled. Distance became meaningless. Jake could see shapes in the fog, ancient wreckage from ships that had tried to cross and failed, dozens of different designs from species long dead. The nebula was a graveyard. "How many have died here?" Maya whispered. "Too many." Elindra stood beside Jake on the bridge. Ember was curled around her feet. The dragon could sense things. Even the elves could not. "This place is old and angry. The nebula remembers all who tried to conquer it." Days passed in the red darkness. The human crews were getting restless. Radiation sickness was starting to affect them. Despite the shielding, Sophie came to Jake with a report. "Stormwing can feel something ahead. A massive presence, living but not alive. Growing but not organic. I think we found the weapon." Jake called a meeting with all the commanders. They gathered via hologram since the ships were spread out to avoid collisions. The Star Eater is directly ahead. Elindra pointed to a map that Ember had created through mental imaging. "It is surrounded by the Krell defense fleet." Katie pulled up what little sensor data they had. "I count at least 150 ships, maybe more. The nebula is interfering with accurate readings. We cannot fight that many." One of the human captains said, "Even with the elven ships, we are outnumbered 10-1, then we do not fight them all." Prince Thalon had a plan. "We create a diversion, draw the fleet away from the weapon. Then a strike team goes in fast, plants charges, and escapes before they know what happened. Who volunteers for the strike team?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. Every hand went up. Both human and elven. Jake smiled, despite the situation. "All right, I will lead the team. Maya, you are with me, Sophie and Stormwing for air support, Elindra and Ember, of course Luna, because we need someone who can shoot straight, and Kale, because he is too stubborn to leave behind. Thalon will command the fleet and execute the diversion." Prince Thalon looked like he wanted to argue. Then he nodded. "Do not die, little sister. I would hate to have come all this way just to tell Mother you were vaporized. I will do my best." Elindra smiled. The plan was simple, which meant it would probably go wrong. The fleet would engage the Krell from the north, draw as many ships as possible. Meanwhile, the strike team would approach from the south in a small stealth shuttle. They would board the weapon plant enough explosives to destroy it, then escape before the Krell realized what happened. Simple. Except for the part where everything could kill them, the attack began at dawn. Though there was no sun in the nebula, they called it dawn anyway. Thalon fleet dropped out of stealth and opened fire. Elven energy weapons lit up the red fog. Krell cruisers responded immediately. The battle was brutal. Human missiles streaked through space. Elven ships danced between Krell formations. Dragons flew like living fighters, breathing plasma and tearing through armor. Sophie and Stormwing led the charge. The dragon had grown larger with each battle. Now she was the size of a small ship. Her roar echoed through space, somehow audible despite the vacuum. While the fleet fought, Jake's team slipped past in the shuttle. It was cramped with all of them inside Maya piloted, while Jake studied the weapon through the view screen. It was worse than he imagined. The Star Eater was massive, kilometers across. A twisted combination of flesh and metal, tubes pumped with glowing fluid. At its center was a sphere that pulsed with contained stellar energy. They had already fed it a small sun. "That is what I am afraid of," Alindra said quietly. "Once it consumes a full star, it will have the power to ignite others. A chain reaction across the galaxy. We are not going to let that happen." Jake checked his weapons. "Everyone ready." The team nodded. They docked on a maintenance port that Ember had located through her telepathic scans. The interior of the weapon was like being inside a living creature. Walls pulsed with veins of energy. The air was hot and smelled of ozone and something organic. Krell workers were everywhere. Luna took point with her energy bow. She moved like a shadow. Each arrow struck silently. Kale fought with his twin blades when stealth failed. The older elf was poetry in motion. No wasted movements, just efficiency and death. They fought their way deeper. Jake planted charges on structural supports. Maya rigged them to detonate in sequence. The goal was to cause a cascading failure, make the weapon tear itself apart from the inside. Sophie and Stormwing provided cover. The dragon filled corridors with fire. Krell soldiers tried to stop them, but nothing could stand against dragon flame. They reached the central chamber. The sphere of captured star matter floated in the middle. It was beautiful and terrible, energy contained by force fields that bent reality. If we destroy this wrong, it could explode like a supernova. Maya studied the systems. We need to release the energy slowly, let it dissipate into the nebula. Ember moved forward. The dragon placed her claws on the containment field. Through her bond with Alindra, she showed them what needed to be done. The dragons can absorb the energy, channel it away from here into a safe dimension. But it will take all of us. Sophie landed beside them. Stormwing and the other bonded dragons were connected telepathically. All 4 dragons can work together. But we need time. "How much time?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, Alindra said. "Maybe 30. Alarm started screaming. The Krell had discovered them. We do not have 30 minutes. Jake grabbed his rifle. Kale, "Luna, Maya, with me. We hold this position no matter what." The 4 of them set up a defensive perimeter. Krell soldiers poured into the chamber. Wave after wave of insectoid warriors. Jake fired until his rifle overheated, switched to his sidearm, then to a Krell weapon he picked up from a dead soldier. Beside him, Luna was a whirlwind. Her bow sang as energy arrows flew. Each shot found a target. Kyle laughed as he fought. For someone 300 years old, the elf seemed to be having the time of his life. Maya coordinated their defense. She had linked their weapon systems together, creating overlapping fields of fire. Behind them, the dragons worked Ember and Stormwing and the other 2 bonded dragons. Their scales glowed brighter and brighter as they absorbed stellar energy. The chamber filled with light. The Krell kept coming. There were too many. Jake took a hit to his shoulder. Pain exploded, but he kept fighting. Maya went down. A Krell blade had caught her leg. Luna dragged her behind cover while still firing. Kale stood alone at the entrance, holding back dozens of Krell warriors. The old elf was wounded in a dozen places, but he would not yield. "Just a little longer," Alindra called out. The dragons were glowing so bright it hurt to look at them. The sphere of star matter was shrinking. Energy was being pulled away into another dimension. 5 more minutes. Thalon's voice came over the comm. "We cannot hold them much longer. The fleet is taking heavy casualties. You need to finish this now. We are trying," Jake shouted back. Then the wall exploded. A Krell war leader entered the chamber. It was massive, twice the size of a normal soldier, covered in heavy armor. It carried weapons that could tear through ship hulls. It looked at the dragons and understood what was happening. With a roar, it charged. Jake threw himself in its path. His rifle did nothing against the armor. The war leader swatted him aside like an insect. Jake hit the wall hard. Something broke inside him. The war leader raised its weapon to fire at the dragons. Elindra stepped between them. She raised her hands and gravity itself bent to her will. The war leader found itself floating, unable to move, unable to attack, but the effort was costing her. Blood ran from her nose. Her body shook with strain. Dun Ember roared. The dragons had finished. The sphere of star matter was gone. The energy safely dispersed. The weapon was dead. Elindra released the war leader. It fell hard. Before it could recover, Kyle drove both blades through its throat. "Everyone run." Jake gasped. The charges are about to blow. They fought their way back to the shuttle, carrying their wounded, dragging each other when someone fell. Behind them, explosions tore through the Star Eater. The weapon was destroying itself. They launched just as the main reactor went critical. The shuttle raced away on emergency thrusters. Behind them, the Star Eater collapsed into a ball of white fire. Then it was gone. Consumed by its own power, the Krell fleet broke. Without the weapon, they had no reason to fight. They retreated into the nebula depths. The battle was over on the Silver Hawk. Jake sat in the medical bay while doctors worked on his injuries. Maya was in the bed next to him. Her leg would heal, but she would have scars. Sophie and Stormwing were outside. The dragon was exhausted from channeling so much energy. But both of them were alive. Elindra entered with Ember. Both looked tired but triumphant. "We did it," she said simply. "The weapon is destroyed. The Krell threat is ended. For now," Jake agreed, "but they will try again someday. Then we will stop them again." She smiled. Together. Prince Thalon appeared in the doorway. "Sister, you are reckless and foolish, and you have violated every rule our people hold sacred." He paused. "And I have never been more proud of you." The siblings embraced. Outside the nebula, the combined human and elven fleet regrouped. They had lost ships, good people had died, but they had won. The galaxy was safe, at least for today. 6 months had passed since the destruction of the Star Eater. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Jake stood on the observation deck of the new joint human-elven space station. It hung in orbit above a neutral world, a symbol of cooperation between species. Below him, construction crews worked, both human and elven, building something that had never existed before, a place where both peoples could live and work together. The war with the Krell had not ended completely, but it had changed. Without their superweapon, the Krell Empire had been forced to negotiate. A ceasefire was in place. Talks of peace were beginning. Other species had taken notice. If humans and elves could work together, then perhaps old hatreds could be set aside. The Galactic Coalition was forming slowly and with many arguments, but it was forming. "Commander Morrison," a voice said behind him. Jake turned to see Admiral Winters, his new superior officer. The human military had restructured after the battle. Jake had been promoted to Admiral given command of the new Joint Defense Force. "How are you adjusting to your new role?" Winters asked. "Still getting used to it?" "Sir," Jake admitted. "A year ago, I was commanding one ship. Now I am responsible for an entire fleet. You earned it," Winters said. "What you did out there changed everything, not just militarily, but politically. The Elven High Council has agreed to formal relations with humanity that has never happened before. It was not just me." Sir Jake looked out at the station. It was Elindra and her people. It was Maya and Sophie and all the others who fought. We just did what needed to be done. Winters nodded. "Well, keep doing it. Admiral, the galaxy is counting on you." After Winters left, Jake made his way to the training center. Inside, he found Sophie working with a group of young pilots, both human and elven. All of them were learning to bond with dragons. Stormwing lay in the center of the room. The dragon had grown even larger. Now she was the size of a house. Young dragons surrounded her. Learning from their elder, Sophie saw Jake and waved, "Admiral, come see this." A young human pilot named Casey was attempting her first bond. She stood before a silver dragon, the same one that had rejected bonding months ago. The dragon watched Casey with careful eyes. Then slowly it lowered its head. Casey reached out with trembling hands. When they touched, light filled the room. The bond was forming. Casey gasped and nearly fell, but the dragon wrapped around her, supporting her, protecting her. When it ended, Casey was crying and laughing at the same time. Her name is Moonfire, and she is amazing. Beautiful. Jake said, "How many successful bonds?" "So far, 12. Sophie reported with pride, 7 human and 5 elven. "The dragons are accepting us. They see humans as worthy companions. That is more than I had hoped for. Your bond with Stormwing started all of this. You showed everyone it was possible." Sophie smiled, but there was sadness in it. "I just wish more people could have lived to see it." Her parents and brother were still gone. The scars of war did not heal quickly. Jake understood that pain. He carried his own scars. "They are watching," he said, "and they would be proud." In the diplomatic wing, Jake found Prince Thalon arguing with human ambassadors. The elf prince had become the official liaison between their peoples. It was a role he both loved and hated. "You cannot simply demand access to our sacred technology," Thalon said with forced patience. "These things take time. We have been separate for thousands of years, but we need better shields." A human ambassador argued, "Our ships cannot survive in the same environments as yours." "Then build better ships," Thalon shot back. "Or perhaps try asking nicely instead of demanding." Jake cleared his throat. "Am I interrupting Admiral Morrison?" Thalon looked relieved. "Please tell these people that diplomacy requires something called tact. And please tell the prince that stubbornness is not a negotiating strategy." The ambassador crossed his arms. Jake held up his hands. "How about we table this discussion and reconvene tomorrow when everyone has had time to cool down?" Both sides agreed reluctantly. After the ambassador left, Thalon sighed. "Your people are impossible." He complained, "They want everything immediately. They have no patience. We are young and eager." Jake smiled. "You will get used to it. I doubt that." But Thalon was smiling too. "My sister wants to see you. She is in the gardens." Jake found Elindra in the station gardens. They were a mix of human and elven plants, creating something beautiful and unique. Ember lay in a patch of sunlight. The dragon had become a permanent fixture on the station. Children, both human and elven, loved to visit her. Elindra was tending to a flowering plant that glowed softly. Jake. She smiled when she saw him. "Come see this. It is a star blossom from my home world. They only bloom once every 10 years, and this one has decided to bloom here, on our station. It is beautiful." Jake knelt beside her like everything else you have brought to us. "You flatter me, Admiral." She laughed. "But I think this station is more your doing than mine. You convinced the humans to take a chance. I merely provided the opportunity. We both know that is not true. Without you, none of this would exist. The Krell would have used their weapon. Billions would have died. Humans and elves would still be strangers." Ember made a sound of agreement. The dragon had taken credit for bringing them together. She was not entirely wrong. Maya found them in the gardens. The tactical officer, now lieutenant commander, walked with a slight limp. Her leg had healed, but it would never be quite the same. "Admiral, we have a situation." Her tone was serious. "What is it?" "A Krell delegation has arrived. They are requesting permission to dock. They say they want to join the coalition." Jake and Elindra exchanged looks. The Krell Jake said, "Joining us? It gets better." Maya continued. "They are led by a war leader who claims to have been at the Star Eater battle. He says watching us work together changed his perspective. He wants his people to stop fighting. This could be a trap," Elindra warned. "The Krell are known for deception. Or it could be genuine." Jake countered. We gave elves and humans a chance to work together. Maybe the Krell deserved the same chance. You would trust them. After everything they have done, I do not know if I would trust them, Jake admitted. But I think we have to try. If we refuse them, then we are no better than they were. Elindra thought for a long moment. Then she nodded. Very well, but we meet them with security present, and Ember will read their intentions. If they are lying, we will know. The Krell delegation arrived under heavy guard. The war leader was massive, covered in scarred chitin. His compound eyes reflected no emotion. I am Zekthar. The Krell spoke through a translator. I commanded the defense of the Star Eater. Your forces defeated mine. Why are you here? Jake asked. Because I saw something I did not understand. Zekthar gestured with his clawed limbs. Humans and elves fighting together. Species that should have been enemies. Working as one. We studied you for years. We thought we understood you, but we were wrong. The war leader paused. Among my people, strength is everything. We believed that made us superior. But watching you, I realized we confused strength with unity. You are strong because you work together. We are weak because we stand alone. Ember moved closer to the Krell. Her eyes glowed as she read his mind. After a moment, she looked at Elindra and made a soft sound. He speaks truth. Elindra translated. His intentions are genuine. He truly wishes for peace. Then, welcome, Zekthar. Jake extended his hand. The gesture seemed strange to the Krell, but after a moment he reached out with one claw, the two clasped limbs, human and Krell, former enemies. Now, potential allies. The galaxy is changing. Zekthar said, the old ways of conquest and domination are ending. A new age is beginning, and we do not wish to be left behind. Over the following weeks, more species arrived. Some came seeking protection. Others came offering trade. A few came simply out of curiosity. The coalition grew. The station expanded to accommodate everyone. Luna was put in charge of security. The elven warrior took her job seriously. She trained both humans and aliens in combined combat techniques. Kale retired from active duty, but he stayed on the station as an advisor. The old elf had stories that everyone wanted to hear, tales of ancient battles and forgotten wisdom. Katie Rodriguez opened a bar on the station. It became the most popular gathering place. Humans, elves, Krell, and dozens of other species mingled there, sharing drinks and stories, building friendships across the stars. Sophie continued training dragon riders. The program expanded rapidly. Soon there were 50 bonded pairs. Then 100 dragons that had spent centuries sleeping were waking, curious about these young humans who refused to give up. Jake found himself busier than ever, coordinating fleets, settling disputes, planning defenses against threats that still existed, but he was not alone. Elindra worked beside him, her wisdom balancing his determination. Maya handled logistics with ruthless efficiency. Thalon managed diplomatic relations with surprising skill. Together they built something unprecedented, a true alliance of equals. 1 year after the battle, Jake stood once again on the observation deck, but this time he was not alone. Elindra stood beside him. Ember lay at their feet. Below them, the station had grown into a small city. Ships from a dozen species came and went. The sounds of multiple languages filled the air. Children of different species played together in the gardens. We did it, Elindra said softly. We changed the galaxy. We gave it a chance to change itself, Jake corrected. All we did was show what was possible. She smiled and took his hand. The gesture had become natural between them. You know, the High Council has officially recognized our partnership, both professional and personal. They are not happy about it, but they accept it. Is that their way of giving us permission to be friends? Something like that? She laughed, though I think my mother still hopes I will come to my senses. Ember made a sound that might have been laughter. The dragon had become very fond of Jake. She rested her massive head on his shoulder, a silent show of affection. In the distance, a new ship was arriving. It carried representatives from a species called the Vex. They had heard about the coalition and wanted to join. There will always be more work, Maya said as she joined them. More species to integrate, more problems to solve. Good. Jake said, I would be bored otherwise, you humans and your need for constant activity. Thalon appeared with Kale and Luna. Can you not simply rest and enjoy what you have built? We will rest when we are dead, Luna said, which given our line of work might be sooner than we would like. Everyone laughed. It was true. The galaxy was still dangerous. There were still threats, still enemies who resisted change. But they had something now that they had not had before. Hope and unity and purpose. Sophie landed nearby on Stormwing. The dragon was carrying a group of younglings. Both the children and the dragon were laughing. Next generation is looking good, Sophie reported. These kids will grow up never knowing a time when humans and elves were enemies. That is the real victory, Elindra said. Not the battles we won, but the future we created. Ember roared suddenly, a sound of joy and triumph across the station. Other dragons answered. Their voices echoed through space. It was not a war cry. It was a song, a celebration of what they had all accomplished together. The age of isolation had ended. The age of cooperation had begun. And at the center of it all stood a human commander and an elven princess, with their dragon companion who had come together in the darkness of war and built something beautiful in the light of peace. The stars above them continued their eternal dance, but now they danced to a new rhythm, one of hope and unity, one that promised a better tomorrow for all who called the galaxy home. Jake looked at his friends, his family, human and elven and dragon and even Krell, all working together, all building something greater than themselves. This is what I wanted, he said quietly. This is what we all died for, what we fought for. A future where species stand together instead of apart, and we have it. Elindra squeezed his hand. Not just for us, but for everyone. The station alert sounded. Another ship was requesting permission to dock. Another species seeking to join. Jake smiled. Back to work? Then always back to work, Maya agreed. But what else would we do? They walked together toward the docking bay, ready to welcome another new ally. Behind them, Ember watched. The ancient dragon had seen empires rise and fall, had witnessed countless wars and the end of worlds. But this was something new, something worth protecting. The fire of dragons had met the will of humanity, and together they had not just saved stars, they had united them. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.